My god, I can't say this on the internet. Hi friends, my name is Jess and welcome back to my channel, Books Past Bedtime. I'm trying a new filming location today because I filmed a vlog clip here the other day and I kind of liked how it turned out, so we're gonna see. I kind of like it. There's like actual books in the background now, you know? My flowers are kind of dying, ignore that, but I don't know. I think it's like cute and cozy. Let me know if you like this better. But today, as you can probably tell from the title of this video, we're gonna be doing my October wrap up. If you know you can count on one thing from me, it is always getting a wrap up every single month. That's like the only video that I'm guaranteed to put out on my channel. But I am going to try to be very consistent. I say that all the time. But a fun thing, a little announcement, I am planning to do Vlogmas this year, or Bookmas I guess. Basically, I'm just gonna try my darndest to put out a video every single day in December, just to kind of like bulk up my channel and get myself into the flow of being consistent. Hopefully that'll help out. So if you're interested in any of that content, definitely subscribe to my channel. I would love to have you here. And without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump into the wrap up. First, as always, we're gonna be talking about my monthly reading stats for the month of October. In October, I read a total of 13 books, which is pretty on trend for the last couple of months. Hopefully I will be able to bulk this up in November and December, as I still have like 40 books left to read if I want to meet my goal of 200. I'm hopeful though. We'll see how it goes. But across those 13 books, I read 4,299 pages. I listened to 30.96 hours of audio. Probably multiply this by 2.5 because that is the typical speed I listen to audiobooks on. So definitely was probably closer to like 10-12 hours of real-time listening to audiobooks. My average rating for the month was 3.46, which is brutal and my lowest rating by far of the entire year. That is my overview. Let's talk about the genres that I read. Of course, 2022 is the year of romance. I read 11 books in the romance category, which is the majority of the books that I read this month. And then additionally, I read one contemporary book and one book that I marked as erotic because I guess it was more erotica than romance. I don't remember which one that is. Oh, I think it was Wicked Beauty by Katie Robert. I was just pissed about that. Like, according to me, it is erotica, not a romance. Looking at the format of the books that I read 3 audiobooks in October, 5 ebooks, and then 5 physical books. Looking at the audience of the books that I read this month, 12 of them were adult books and 1 book was new adult. I think that one was probably set in college, which was why I marked it as new adult. Looking at the identity of the authors that I read from this month, I read 1 book by a genderqueer author, 1 book by a man, and then 11 books by women. Looking at author status, I read 5 books that were by authors that were new to me, and then 8 books by authors that I'd read before. And then diving a little bit deeper into my ratings, as I mentioned, my average rating for the month was 3.46, so we can kind of see how that breaks down. I did manage to read 2 5-star books in October though, which is good. I always love seeing those 5 stars. And then I rated 2 books 4.5 stars, still awesome, still loved those books. 2 books got 4 stars, which is pretty great as well. And then 1 book got 3.5 stars, 2 books got 2.5 stars, 3 books got 2 stars, which is pretty brutal. And then I DNF'd 1 book. And those are all my reading stats for October. Now let's jump into my actual wrap up and what I read in October. So as always, or as I've been doing for the last couple of months, I'm going to rank the books from worst to best. So make sure you stick around to the end of the video to hear my favorite book of the month. But of course, we have to start off somewhere. So the books in the bottom of my ranking are the 2 books that I read in the Dark Olympus series by Katie Robert, and that is the second and the third book, Electric Idol and Wicked Beauty. Electric Idol by Katie Robert is a book that I gave 3.5 stars. This was actually probably my favorite in the Dark Olympus series, but as a whole, the series was not my favorite thing by any means. So this is a Psyche and Eros retelling. Psyche is a daughter of Demeter and she is the sister of Persephone from our first book. And in this story, she has a romance with Eros. Eros is a son of Aphrodite and he's kind of like her fixer, which means he goes out and eliminates her enemies. Aphrodite has declared Psyche public enemy number 1, so she sets Eros to go and kill her, but Eros finds himself very drawn to and attracted to Psyche, and he cannot bring himself to kill her, so they hatch up this plan to save Psyche and throw off Aphrodite. I found this book to be the most romantic of the 3 in the series, which I think is why I liked it the most. Of course, these books are very spicy, which is not something I'm afraid of by any means, but I just didn't like the balance of romance and smut throughout the rest of the series, but I felt like this one probably did it the best. I still don't love Katie Roberts' writing style. I just think it's very simplistic and straightforward and almost contradictory sometimes, and she does not really trust her reader to like infer things. She just tells you how it is, which can be fine, but here I just felt it very jarring and I felt like I was kind of like being talked down to or something. I don't know. These books just simply didn't work for me. They didn't have enough going for them other than the smut, and that cannot be more true for Wicked Beauty, the third book in this series. series, which was definitely by far my least favorite. I ended up DNFing this book a little bit over halfway through because I just could not take it any longer. This third book is a retelling of Achilles, Patroclus, and Helen. They're in a little spicy threesome, which is great, good for them. I was very excited to read this book because there's not a lot of poly rep and romance, and I just wanted to read it, and I think I just went into it with the wrong expectations because this just is not a romance, it's just erotica, which is fine, and it's my fault for having the wrong expectations, but all the same, this book still didn't work for me. I had the same issues with Katie Roberts' writing style as I did throughout the rest of the series. It was just too simplistic, too straightforward, and then add on top of it the fact that I liked none of these characters. Well, I liked Helen. She was the best character, definitely. But Achilles and Patroclus, I just hated. I don't know. They were so toxic, so manipulative. To me, good poly rep should include good communication and laying down of boundaries, all partners being accepting of and willing to work with those boundaries. In this book, no one communicated. Everyone busted through everyone else's boundaries and just violated everyone, and it was so toxic, and it was just not something I wanted to read about, so that's why I ended up DNFing this one. Definitely my least favorite read of the month by far. Another book that I did not find myself enjoying in October was Hang the Moon by Alexandra Bellafleur. This is Alexandria's second book in her Written in the Stars kind of companion series, and I'm so sad that I did not like this book because I absolutely loved the first book, Written in the Stars, which follows Darcy and Elle in their fake dating two lovers romance. Hang the Moon follows Darcy's best friend Annie and Darcy's brother Brendan as they have their own romance. So we have a childhood friends to lovers romance trope going on. I went into this really wanting to love it because I loved Alexandria's writing style and her characters from the first book. I definitely wasn't expecting to love it as much as I did Written in the Stars because it's not sapphic and it's a straight romance. Annie is bisexual, so the characters are queer, but I digress. I did not like this book at all. The writing style was fine and the characters were fine. I had quite a few problems with this book. My number one problem was that there was way too much talk of bodily functions in this book. There is a book in this scene that involves peeing, not in a toilet, and not in a sexy way. Not that there's a sexy way. I'm not into golden showers. Unrelated to that, the pee scene just took me out of this book. It was gross, it was unnecessary, there was no reason for it to be in there other than to gross me out, so that really pissed me off, number one. There was also just lots of talk of sweat and drool and stuff. Brendan gets so sweaty in one scene in this book that he's dripping sweat, and he's take off your shirt, are you okay? What is wrong with you? Ugh. Gross. Can we just pretend that those things don't happen in romance books? Why do we have to include stuff like that? Please stop. And the last thing, Brendan, our love interest, has a large tattoo across his pec of the house from Up, the balloon house, and it's vibrantly colored. If a man took off his shirt and I saw that, I would go home. Say goodbye. No, thank you. Put your shirt back on. This is a book for Disney adults. That's what this is. This was a pass for me. 2 stars. Another pass for me was I'm So Not Over You by Kasoko Jackson. This is a male-male contemporary romance that I gave 2 stars to as well. This book follows Kian and Hudson, who used to be boyfriends but broke up before the beginning of the story, and the story starts with Hudson inviting Kian out to coffee. Even though Kian is still torn up about this breakup, he still is somewhat drawn to Hudson, so he agrees to go, and Hudson is not asking them to get back together though. He's asking them to pretend to get back together because his family is coming into town to visit and he has never told his family that they're no longer dating. Kian agrees because Hudson says that he'll hook him up with some job prospects. Kian's trained to be a journalist, and so a fake dating, second chance romance kind of deal ensues. I struggled with this book so much. There were so many times that I tried starting it and I just didn't finish it. Finally though, I did finish it. It just was not my cup of tea by any means. For one, I really found the writing to be very difficult to get into. There are so many needless tangents and references, pop culture mentions that make this book feel really dated, even though it only came out the end of last year, and it really just didn't have any flow to it. There was no way to get into reading it. It just felt like a slog the whole time I was reading this book. And then the next problem I had was with Kian and Hudson's relationship itself. Their biggest problem is that they do not know how to communicate with one another, and they never communicate ever throughout the whole book. Also, we never learn why they broke up originally, so I really don't understand how I'm supposed to root for their romance and see and understand how they will be different together this time when they never even discuss their previous issues, and then they they also never really discuss their fight during the third act breakup. They just kind of like get back together and like, oh, give me another chance. No, why don't you apologize for and explain what you did and how you're going to react to the situation if it comes up again? Because I'm sure if you broke up 2 times, it's gonna happen again. There's gonna be some other conflict or misunderstanding. How are you guys gonna work through it? I don't believe you can. I really do not believe your relationship lasted much longer after the ends of these pages. So basically, I just was very unsatisfied by this book and it didn't work for me, and I give it 2 stars. I think I must have changed some of my ratings from my spreadsheet to my wrap-up plan because I have 5 books now that I rated 2 stars, and I don't know if they're actually correctly ranked, but I'm just gonna talk about them in this order. Next is Fresh Ice by Marina Viviancos. This is a Kindle Unlimited male-male Omegaverse romance. I just wanted something spicy, okay? That is why I downloaded this, and sometimes Omegaverse just hits. This one unfortunately did not. I gave it 2 stars. This book follows Alonzo. Alonzo is an Omega and he is a rookie on a hockey team. The problem is Omegas don't play hockey, only Alphas do. Alonzo is hiding the fact that he is an Omega, but he can only do this for so long because he is living with one of his teammates, Levy. Levy discovers he's an Omega. They kind of have like a friends with benefits situation. I guess it's like the failed casual trope because they're like friends to lovers, and it's also like failed casual to lovers, you know. That's the gist of this book. It's in a contemporary non-shifter setting but Omegaverse, and I feel like that's one of the reasons why I didn't like it. I didn't think it made very much sense because everything was like so contemporary except for the fact that alphas and omegas and betas existed in this world, and I didn't really I didn't really vibe with that. I don't know. Also, it was just written not the greatest. Alonzo is also a very annoying main character. Like, he's going through a lot, he's very depressed, his dad is abusive, but he like didn't really develop as a character beyond that. Felt like those were his only personality traits. I don't know, it just like wasn't as much as I wanted. Like I like the Omegaverse tropes. These characters in this book just wasn't it for me. Next we can talk about How to Find a Princess by Alyssa Cole. This is a female kind of contemporary, kind of fantasy romance. There's no magic, but there is fake royalty. It's almost the way that this world is described, it's almost like Europe is full of like tiny little countries that have tiny little monarchies, kind of like in The Princess Diaries with Genovia. That's basically what this book is. So we're following Makeda and Bez. Bez is like some kind of investigator security detail for the government of this random country. I don't remember what it's called. And Makeda is allegedly the heir, the like lost heir to the throne of this monarchy, gets the job to go find Makeda, figure out who she is, and bring her back to this country so she can rule because they need a new monarch or something. And of course, along the way, they fall in love. But again, this romance just really didn't work for me. It is extremely slow burn. And if you know me, you know I like a slow burn, but this was too much. Like, there was not real cute moments along the way because most of the time these characters hated each other, and not in a fun way, like in a way that made me feel uncomfortable when I saw their interactions or heard their interactions. Nothing really happens in the romance until like the 90% mark, and this book is almost 400 pages, so it was simply too long and too slow, and too much was happening other than the romance, which is why I couldn't get behind it. I also really didn't like Makeda and Bez as characters. Bez in particular was just very strange. The way she talked and the things that she referenced and the way that she acted, it almost felt like she was from a fantasy world, but she wasn't supposed to be. She was just weird, I guess. And then they spend a lot of page time talking about how Bez wears glasses but never cleans them, and they're always dirty. This was like something that they spent extensive page time on and mentioned multiple times, and there's even a scene where Makeda gets so frustrated that she takes the glasses off of Bez's face and cleans them for her. And not sexy. Glasses cleaning is not something. It's not one of my kinks, so I was not into that. I thought it was pretty gross, actually. And yeah, I just did not feel the chemistry between Bez and Makeda. I did not root for their romance, and I didn't like this book, so 2 stars. And the last book that I finished in October was also a 2.5 star book. That was One Wild Heat by Kellix. This is another male-male Omegaverse romance. Again, like, I just was in the mood this month. This book follows Quinn and Bellamy. I actually read 2 books this month with characters named Bellamy, which is so funny. Anyway, Quinn is an alpha and he breaks up with his beta boyfriend. To kind of get away from it all, he goes to his family's lake house for the weekend. The only problem is the lake house has also been promised to his younger brother's friend, Bellamy, to ride out his heat at. So neither of them knows the other is going to be there. And once they both get there, of course, things happen. This book definitely has a brother's best friend trope as well as forced proximity. It's also fated mates as well, all tropes that I enjoy, but this book it didn't really work for me. It wasn't written super well, and also the world that it's set in was not super well developed. A lot of these like male Omegaverse books don't have any women in the world, which I know I'm reading a male romance, but like, why do women not exist in this world and why is it not explained? I've read like quite a few books where this happens and I don't understand the phenomenon, and I'm not down with it. What is going on? I don't understand. Basically though, this book was just very like insta love, insta lust, spicy, and then the characters spend a lot of time like floundering around, not communicating with one another, which is annoying. It was good, I guess, for what it was, but it was not anything groundbreaking, not anything that I will visit again, and not anything where I feel like I want to continue the series. Now we can move into books that I actually enjoyed, and all the books from here to the end of the video I would definitely recommend if they sound interesting to you. So let's get started. First 4-star of the month is Total Creative Control by Sally Malcolm and Joanna Chambers. This is a male contemporary romance. It has the grumpy sunshine trope, it has the boss employee trope, and also kind of friends to lovers. The main characters in this book are Aaron and Lewis. Lewis is the creator of this really famous TV show, and Aaron is a very famous fanfic writer in the fandom for this TV show. Aaron actually gets the opportunity of a lifetime when he applies for a job to be Lewis's PA and ends up getting it. He works for Lewis for multiple years, is kind of like Lewis's sounding board for bouncing ideas off of for the TV show. He very much keeps his like fanfiction life separate. It's not anything, he's not doing anything wrong. This book actually has really good like fandom and fanfic rep and discussions. I feel like that's not like representation is not the right word, but it felt very true to like my experience in fandoms and with fanfiction. These authors really stood up for fanfiction and for the reasons why people love it and how it is definitely like justifiable and a transformation of the original work. I digress. I liked that aspect of this book. But back to the plot. Lewis and Aaron have been working together for quite some time, like 4 years or something, I think, once this book starts. And they're very close, very much more than like just PA and boss. They're friends. But Lewis very much wants to keep their relationship professional. He sets those boundaries at the very beginning. So despite the fact that Aaron is very much in love with Lewis, he has never crossed the line. Lewis is one of those very like clueless characters. So it takes a while for him to get with the program. But that's basically what this book is about, is these two realizing their feelings for one another and falling in love and working out how to have a relationship. I really loved this book. I thought it was very quintessential rom-com. There are some very funny moments in it. I really enjoyed the writing. I found it really worked for me. Some of the scenes are a little bit ridiculous and over the top, but they're fun and campy, and I feel like they don't take away from the rest of the story. Of course, there's some very frustrating like miscommunication in this book, but I feel like that's typical of all contemporary romances like this. I definitely really enjoyed the dynamic and was rooting for the relationship, and like I said, I loved the fandom aspects of this book. I definitely would recommend, and I think it's an above average contemporary rom-com. Next is another above average contemporary rom-com, and that is Devon and Chris Plan a Wedding by Chintzia C. Higgins. This is a female-female fake dating romance. It's a fun twist because it's set on a reality TV show. Chris and Devon are both contestants on this reality TV show where contestants are matched up with one another, they're paired off, and over 6 weeks they're supposed to convince their families that they are getting married and have their families help them plan their wedding. These people are like complete strangers, know nothing about each other, although Devon and Chris are instantly attracted to one another, and I think the TV producers see that, so they are paired together. They definitely have sparks from the first moment, which is really good. There's some good spice in this book, and it's really just a fun, really super cute romance. I really liked how the relationship developed. I like how communicative these characters were and how supportive they were of one another, even from the start, even when they didn't have expectations from one another and were just like planning to be friends and do this TV show together. I also really loved the family elements in this book. It was so fun seeing like the reality show element and them interacting with their families and trying to convince their families that they were actually getting married. It puts them in a lot of like fun, interesting situations, typical of like the fake dating trope, but with higher stakes, it felt like. But yeah, I really liked this book. I thought that it was super cute, and I devoured it in like a single day because it was just so quick and fun and easy to read. 4 stars. Next on my list is Roman by Gray Bryan. This is a Kindle Unlimited vampire fated mates male romance and I really loved it. I gave this one 4.5 stars. It follows Roman, our daddy vamp, and he has never really believed in the fated mates situation. He doesn't think it's real, but he is proven wrong when he meets Danny, who is a nurse at a local hospital, and Roman is instantly like, this is it, this is him. But there's a little bit of an issue because this guy from Roman's past is trying to come in and ruin his life, especially ruin his fated mate situation, because this guy believes that Roman ruined his fated mate's situation. So Roman has to protect Danny from this conflict and figure out how they are going to be able to be together safely, and what is going to happen. This book was just like such an easy, quick, fun read. I really loved it. I really don't have very many complaints other than the fact that it's like super simplistic. It's very also insta love if you don't like that, but I mean, that's what fated mates is, you know, so I like it. I really liked Roman and Danny's dynamic. And just like a growly vampire just does something for me. I just loved it. I thought it was fun. I don't have a lot to say about it. 4.5 stars. All right, now we're getting into my top 3, and number 3 is Rosalind Palmer Takes the Cake by Alexis Hall. I gave this book 4.5 stars and I really loved it. I think I would describe this book as like women's fiction, I guess. I hate that like genre, but I don't know what else to call it. But basically this book follows Rosalind Palmer as she competes on a reality baking competition, kind of like I think the Great British Bake Off. And throughout this book, Rosalind learns a lot about herself as we see her like make friends and have romances on the show and work out her relationship with her parents. And she is also a single mother and has the cutest daughter named Emily. Emily spelled with an A. British Emily. And she also, through the show, meets Harry, who is the ultimate book boyfriend of all time. Harry is probably one of my favorite like straight male characters ever written, and it's because he was written by Alexis Hall, and Alexis Hall can do no wrong. I loved Harry so much, and his interactions with Emily were amazing. So freaking cute. Oh my god, I loved him so much, and I loved Harry. Oh my god. Okay, I really loved this book. I thought it was great. It took me a little bit to get through it. It's not like a super fast-paced, like exciting book, but every moment that I was reading it, I was really loving it. It's such a cozy story. It's very comforting. It's also very funny. Alexis Hall's writing style just really works for me. I love everything he writes, and I just think he's hilarious. I just love his humor. And this book was definitely no different. 4.5 stars. And then my top 2 favorite books of the month. Number 2 is Reading the Signs by Kira Andrews. This is a male contemporary sports romance. I love Kira Andrews. She can also do no wrong. In my book, she like just writes the best romances and the best dynamics. All of her books are spicy, but this one was spicy in like a different way, which I was here for. This book follows Jake and Nico. Nico is a rookie on the baseball team, and Jake is a veteran, and he's like been newly transferred to this team. I forget what it's called when you buy and sell a player because I don't like sports, but and they also knew each other when they were younger because Jake was friends with Nico's brother and like played on the same team as him for a little bit, so they had met before. So we kind of have a like best friend's brother trope going on, brother's best friend. Nico is a pitcher and he's very hot-headed, and Jake is a catcher. He's a veteran, very level-headed. The coach asks Jake to kind of take Nico under his wing, get him to calm down and harness his talent and not ruin it with his hot-headedness. If you do a little thinking, you might be able to understand where this leads. Nico needs some discipline and Jake's gonna give it to him, featuring a very hot spanking scene at 40% blushing. I just love a dom sub dynamic every once in a while. Oh my god, I can't say this on the internet. So you can infer what the rest of the book is about. I really loved this. I really loved the dynamic between our 2 characters. I just loved their relationship. I loved how supportive Jake was of Nico and how like there for him he was. Nico just really needed Jake, but Jake also needed Nico, and Nico helped Jake kind of see the good in life again because Jake was kind of about to retire. He was kind of didn't care about things anymore, but Nico really like brought the love of the sport back to him. I don't give a shit about sports, but it was such a cute dynamic and a romance. There is a lot of baseball in this book, and I don't know baseball, and there were some things that I like skimmed over. But if you like baseball, I would recommend because I feel like Kira probably knew what she was talking about. Seemed like it anyway. Also, there's some funny pitcher and catcher jokes, you know? They're not that funny, but she couldn't help it, I'm sure. I'm just rambling. I really love this book. I have no complaints about it. 5 stars. And then last but certainly not least, my favorite book of the month was Prince in Disguise by Tavia Lark. This is the 2nd book in her Perilous Court series, and I absolutely loved it. 5 stars. This series follows 3 princes of this kingdom and their like individual romances. This 2nd book follows Bellamy, who is the youngest sibling, the youngest prince, and Bellamy has been away in another country, like studying or something for a while, and on his journey back to his kingdom, I forget what all the countries are called, doesn't matter. On his journey back, he gets captured by these like rogue people. With him in captivity is this man named Rakos the Dragon Tamer, except neither of them know who each other is, even though they're both like famous, you know, because one's a prince and one's a dragon tamer. Or no, he's a dragon rider, which is like a soldier in this, it doesn't matter. Basically, he's famous, and so is Bellamy. But they both lie about their identities and neither know who the other is, but they decide that their best chances are to escape together, and so they do that and they get out of captivity. They both need to get back to their respective places. Bellamy, though, is not the most rough and tumble guy out there, so he really would like Reikos to kind of help him out a little bit if he could, and so Reikos agrees, even though he just thinks Bellamy is going to be a pain in his ass. But of course, he begins to develop a real protective streak towards Bellamy. Even when they reach the place where they decide they're going to part ways, Reikos can't let him go, and he's like, no, Bellamy, I will take you all the way, don't worry. I don't know. I just love an overprotective man. I don't know why, it's the best. But this series is so fun. Tavia Lark's writing is so good. Top tier. Like, these are books that I feel like should be published by Tor because they really give me like that fantasy romance gay vibes that a lot of Tor's recent publications give me. So Tor, hit her up. She's doing great. I love this series. It is top notch. The characters are fantastic. The romance is amazing. The fantasy world is so well developed and so cool, and I love the magic in this book, and I love the dragons. There's always like an element of like a animal sidekick in these books too, which I love. And in this book we have a ferret named Bastard who can teleport. And then we have Reikos' dragon, who is also just fantastic. She is so funny. Oh, I love these books so much. I'm like just wanting to reread it now that I'm talking about it. I love these books. They're so good. Please read them. Please read them. All right, and that is my October wrap up for you. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you made it all the way to the end, leave me a little book stack emoji. I'd appreciate it. Also, if you want to see more bookish content from me, press that subscribe button. I talk all about queer books here on this channel. That is my one true love, as you can tell from this wrap up. Also, give this video a like if you liked it. You can also follow me on Instagram and Goodreads. Those are the two social medias that I am most active on outside of YouTube. Also, as always, I have all of the books that I talked about in this video linked in the description down below. These are affiliate Amazon links, and if you want to support the channel, you can buy through those. I will get a tiny little commission. And yeah, I think that is everything from me today. So thank you so much for being here, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.